Welcome back to More Designs. Do you know that the most frequent question I get is how to know what dimensions I use on my iPad? And no wonder, the answer is different based off of the iPad or device you're using. Even if you're using a phone, it changes based off of what direction your planner is going, and it changes based off of what app you're using. It's no wonder it's so confusing. So today I'm going to show you how to figure it out for the combination you're using. Let's jump to it. So I'm just going to start with a single page planner. I would give you guys the advice not to build too much of a planner before figuring out the dimensions you need because it's hard to go back and forth. So once I have a basic start without doing too much, I'm going to export what I have. And right now I'm just on the standard dimensions that are right there when you start a keynote document. I'm going to export it as a PDF and bring it over to my iPad and just have a look and see what we're dealing with. So now jumping into my iPad, I'm going to bring it into GoodNotes and just start a new document. Again, this is just a trial to figure out what's going on. So name, location, all that stuff is not important. I'm actually going to delete it once I like my dimensions. So once I have it in GoodNotes, I like to take a look at it both in editing mode as well as in viewing mode, just to see what the planner looks like. So notice when I am looking at my planner, I have a ton of space on the top and the bottom. And ideally we want our planner to take up all that space without having to scroll in one direction or another. So looking at this, I know that I need to make my planner taller right now. So let's try again. So I'm gonna take my first attempt at adjusting those sizes and finding what's gonna work right for my planner. I'm gonna go into my keynote back on my desktop. I'm gonna click on Document. So I'm going to go to Custom Slide Size, and it gives you the option to change both your width and your height. And this is where that back and forth kicks in. So my width looked fine, but my height needed some adjusting. So I'm going to go in here and make my height a little bit bigger to try to get rid of some of that blank space. So maybe instead of 1080, I'll change it to 1280. Hit OK, and you'll notice that as soon as you hit OK, your slide starts to change. Sometimes when you change it, it's gonna throw off your spacing. Don't worry about that right now. Right now we're focusing on just getting the sizing right for our iPad. So again, I'm gonna export it just like I did before and check out my new dimensions on my iPad. And as I said before, I'm going to delete all of this shortly, so I'm actually going to choose Import into Current Document. So that's going to create several pages of the same planner, but that's okay because we're going to delete it. So now I have my new dimensions where I made it a little bit taller. And what I'm noticing is when I go to edit, I'm actually having to scroll up and down to see the whole thing. Ideally, you want your planner to be a single page without that movement, without going up and down. So that tells me I'm in the right direction, but I went too far. When I change it out of editing mode, it's actually really close. I'm not able to scroll anymore, so we're getting close, but I do need to go back and try again. All right, so I'm gonna repeat this step again, go back into Custom Slide Size, and I'm gonna change it. And then I'm also gonna change my width a little bit because I noticed that it was a little cut off on the sides. Now notice how I've got this white space along my sides. We're gonna fix that, but not right now because we might have to change it again, so save yourself the time. I'm gonna leave it as is, export it as a PDF, and bring it over to GoodNotes and see if my dimensions are looking better now. All right, let's bring that back into GoodNotes again as a new page in the same document. And you can see that white space I was talking about, but you can no longer scroll up and down, so that's a good sign. I do have a little bit of movement when I go into edit, so I still might need to shrink it just a little bit more, but it does look pretty good looking from side to side. So I do have some minor tweaks to do, but again, I can tell I'm getting closer with each try. And this is the process I go through whenever I'm changing to a new device or I'm changing a new format or into a new app. You just have to play around with it until you find those perfect dimensions because they change so often. So let's jump back into Keynote and see if we can get it this time. So So again, I said I needed to adjust the height, but just a little bit. So before I was adjusting it by over 100 at a time. I'm not gonna do that this time because I'm getting so close to it working. I'm just gonna adjust the height a tiny bit, export it as a PDF, and see if it works this time. All right, so here's our newest. It's not scrolling this way. It looks pretty good lengthwise. It still scrolls just a tiny bit when I'm in my editing mode of GoodNotes. So I'm so tantalizing close, but this is why it can be so frustrating. It takes multiple tries. So I'm going back again. Just like last time, all I'm doing is changing the height by a tiny bit, and then I'm gonna export and see how we're looking. So I think we finally got it. The left and right look good. The bottom, it moves up and down, but you can tell the bottom of the planner is sitting right at the bottom of the page. So you can see the whole page without scrolling one way or another, and that's what we want. So now I need to go back into Keynotes just to clean everything up. I need to start by adjusting my background because I want that background to cover my entire slide. And then I just need to start going back in and cleaning up and respacing some of these boxes. I want them to take up the whole top row, and I want everything just to be even with my new dimensions. And this is why I told you from the beginning, do not stress over making a perfect planner and then dealing with the size. You want to do this early on to avoid some big frustrations. I assumed that dimensions I had worked horizontally would work vertically for my first vertical planner, and it was a total disaster because I had 30 some odd pages I had to fix, which was a headache, and it could have been worse. So please take some time once you have a slide done just to figure out those dimensions and then move on from there. I hope this helped. I know learning that sometimes all you need to do is play around can be frustrating because you want the perfect answer for everything. And eventually you'll get to the point where you have the right dimensions for your planner. You don't need to do this every time, but the first time you really need to take the time to figure out what's going to work for your planner, your device, and your app. If you want to see how this planner in particular turns out, make sure you check out the video I've linked here for the full planner. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and be on the lookout for new content coming out soon. Bye, everybody.